Good morning, good afternoon, or as the case may be, good evening, and welcome to this edition of Wholesale Change, the webcast and podcast exclusively for distribution leaders who are looking to make change in their organization. If you are on this webcast podcast, you probably are a wholesale change agent. We've got a fabulous edition today. Keeping customers coming back for more. Marco Rubber triples sales in 2 years. We're going to have a just rich discussion with the CEO, Marty Daley of Marco Rubber. And we'll see a very, very interesting business model. And he'll tell his story of how they are executing and growing amazingly. But before we get to Marty, I'd like to do some business with our sponsors, without whom this show would not be possible. First of all, distribution strategy has a product called Customer Experience RX, CXRX. Smart distributors know that increasing customer loyalty leads to growth in both revenue and profitability. Furthermore, increasing loyalty depends on being able to measure customer satisfaction and improve the customer experience. Distribution Strategy Group's Customer Experience RX provides a new and exciting way to measure overall customer satisfaction, but more importantly, to understand the drivers of customer satisfaction and customer experience so that you can improve both of those. If you're using Net Promoter Score or looking for a way to systematically improve customer satisfaction and customer experience, reach out to DSG. Our next sponsor is HawkSearch by Bridgeline. And if you are tired of struggling with an outdated website and a frustrating e-commerce experience, could be time for a change. At HawkSearch, they've got your back. They understand the importance of a seamless online shopping journey where customers can easily find the products they need without any hassle. HawkSearch is powered by cutting-edge AI technology with intelligent site search and recommendations to ensure your customers will find exactly what they're looking for. Say goodbye to lost revenue and hello to a satisfied customer base. In today's competitive marketplace, staying ahead is crucial. That's why HawkSearch offers a comprehensive suite of digital solutions. From feature-rich e-commerce and content management tools to turnkey site search and merchandising, they've got you covered. Their SEO optimization tools will also help boost your online visibility. Don't let your revenue group goals stay grounded. Soar above and beyond with HawkSearch. Experience the difference for yourself by booking a demo today at hawksearch.com. Our next sponsor is Oracle NetSuite. And for more than 20 years, Oracle NetSuite has helped organizations grow, scale, and adapt to unpredictable change with a unified true cloud platform. NetSuite especially enables fast-growing wholesale distribution companies to achieve operational excellence, manage margins and inventory, and support an expanded geographical footprint for years to come. NetSuite provides a unified system that includes financials/accounting, ERP, HR management software, CRM, professional services automation, and omni-channel commerce all in one place. Most notably, though, is their demand planning and advanced inventory management. Used by more than 34,000 customers in 215 countries and dependent territories, NetSuite has worked with HVAC, electronics, electrical, furniture, home goods, industrial supply, and equipment companies, just to name a few. NetSuite is a true cloud solution, in fact, the first. Go to NetSuite today to see why it's a great fit for your wholesale distribution company. And then our final sponsor, certainly last but not least, is White Cup. Distributors are facing challenges in an economy of inflation and supply chain disruption, but there's a lot more that can be solved by understanding your customers. White Cup CRM and BI provide data that allows distributors to lay internal groundwork, clear billing, improve customer trust and partnerships, and increase sales responsiveness in a robust and accessible platform for your team. Become a leader in the distribution space by understanding industry trends and provide guidance to build trust and transparency in customer relationships and more. Integrate your ERP, empower your sales team, and gain market advantage with White Cup CRM, BI, and pricing products specifically tailored to the distribution industry. Offer more value to your customers by going to White Cup Solutions today and request a demo to learn more. Okay, and with that, I would like to introduce our guest today, Marty Daley of Marco Rubber. Da, dun, dun, da, 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 da. Okay, Marty. Looking forward to
I
seeing
am
you.
here. I am here. Hi, Jonathan.
Awesome.
How are you?
Taking over the world. You want to help?
I'll do it my best. Let's start with world hunger, an easy
World,
topic.
world hunger. Okay, we should have that done by the end of the week. So we'll have to
That
pick a
sounds
next
good.
guest.
That sounds like a plan.
Marty, I'm so excited about the discussion today. And as I was looking at your background, I realized just the absolute depth and richness you have in distribution. And what I'd love to do is have you talk about your career. I think people on the show are interested about how you get into a position that you have gotten into.
Sure.
So, yeah, if you would just talk about your journey and your story.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Well, first of all, thank you, Jonathan, for having me on today. And it looks like you gave Ian the day off, which was very nice of you. So we do miss him as well. But I'll start by talking about me and my story. So yeah, I'm a guy that chose to be in the industrial distribution space. So I kind of like that, being in the middle between a couple of constituents, and we often get blamed for everything. But my story really starts back. My first role in industrial distribution was with a company called Morel Group. At the time, they were called Morel Incorporated, located in Auburn Hills, Michigan. And when I went to Morel, I was relatively fresh out of college, and Morel had a team of hard charging sales engineers. And then they had a team of product managers that were very technical and very much into the product lines. And they brought me in, their president brought me in and said, "Hey, Marty, I want you to figure out how to get these two constituents talking to each other so that we can go out and go after these automotive programs." So that was my introduction into industrial distribution. And what I found very early in my career is, wow, if you really leverage communication, leverage technology, really focus in on the customer, you can have an impact. So I learned at Morel that this is a space that I would like to spend my time. We had quite a bit of success when I was there, implemented an old school, I think one of the original CRMs, Goldmine, for those old timers on the call may remember Goldmine. But we implemented the Goldmine software CRM at Morel back in the mid 90s. And that was really the tool that we used to really have success there in getting the product management team to talk to the sales engineers and the customer and being able to coordinate that effort. I spent several years at Morel, and then I was recruited to join True Value Hardware. And that was really where my career started to get some legs. And that was when I was at True Value Hardware, they brought me in to focus in on helping them expand their commercial industrial business. And I'm sure many people may or may not know this, but if you're an independent hardware retailer, about 20% of your business is going B2B. And what we were doing back then was really working with these independent hardware stores to teach them how to be more proactive in their B2B efforts, but then also going out and finding independent industrial distributors that wanted to plug into the True Value supply chain. So I had good success there at True Value, and really started to get to gain an affinity for small business owners and people that were really entrepreneurial, that were servicing a niche of some sort. An example, if you're selling hose and fittings, and your customer wants to buy everything from you, hose and fittings would be your niche. You'd plug into True Value Hardware to sell them everything else. So as I continued to build my career from there, I was able to sign on with Interline Brands. And I spent about a decade with Interline Brands, and it was a wonderful ride. And Interline was a great example for me of a business that was growing both organically and through acquisition, that had big plans for the future, but was also serving multiple constituents. And when I was at Interline Brands, over time, I ended up taking over the niche businesses that were within their portfolio, and affectionately became known as the VP of Orphan Brands when I was at Interline. But when I was at Interline, we had quite a bit of success acquiring businesses, focusing organizations back in on what made them special in the first place, bringing in general managers that could then oversee those individual brands and continue to focus and work directly with the customer. And then from there, from Interline, I went and ran County Safety Products and was part of the Wesco distribution business. So again, if you think back to those niche businesses, County is an omnichannel model, e-commerce enabled within the larger Wesco machine. So when I was with Wesco, I ran the County Safety Products business, integrated that into into the broader Wesco machine. And then I had a run with Valen, and when we rebranded IDG and Hagemeyer, and I led that project for Sonepar, and we rebranded those two businesses as Valen. So it's been a great ride for me, and I've been fortunate to be in this space, and again, starting very early in my career and being able to expand over that time. I was introduced to Marco via a sim in the middle of the pandemic, and just from looking at this business and thinking about my background, it was a no-brainer for me to go ahead and push my chips into the middle of the table and sign up to run a small business that had those traits that I'd been looking for working with my whole career, although it was a standalone company ready for investment and ready for expansion. So that's probably enough about me. I've got a big family, a bunch of kids. I'm a self-proclaimed family man, and do my best to keep as much balance as I can between work and home.
And I see a guitar in the background there.
Yeah, I play a mean Yankee Doodle, but I tell people that is not something that I've spent nearly as much time on as I'd like to.
Not going to quit your day job soon on that one.
No, I'm not going to be able to compete with people that are playing really, really good songs.
So let's shift into talking about Marco.
Sure.
In prepping for the call, I gave you a multiple choice question and you blew the question up. So I'll just throw it out here and let's play that again.
Sure.
So is Marco rubber? Is it a distributor that manufactures? Is it a manufacturer that distributes? Is it neither? Is it both?
Yeah.
Help us understand what Marco is, because I think one of the things we talk about on this show is interesting business models. Right.
Yeah, happy to. So I don't look at Marco in either one of those. And I think that our model is unique enough that we shouldn't. I look at Marco as a technology-enabled virtual manufacturer of technical rubber products and related parts. And we're not your father's distribution business by any means. We're asset light. We don't carry huge amounts of inventory. We carry the right amount of inventory, but where we really succeed and differentiate ourselves is by leveraging our technology so that we have access to the inventory that's available across our entire network. But equally as important, we have access to the capabilities of our partners so that we can aggregate that and share that with our sales organization who's working directly with customers. So I would say we're neither. We are a virtual manufacturer.
Okay. That being said, though, you do sit at a point where a distributor might sit.
Right.
In the channel, right? And
that's right.
And you're selling both to OEMs and to end customers, the one for the OEM and then the other for MRO. Is that
correct?
Fair?
Yeah, roughly 50-50 in our company. So if a customer is looking for products that they need for production, we can definitely support them there through our supply chain, and we will service that. But we've got a lot of customers that also are buying from us to repair parts or products that they're already using today, as well as build prototypes and so on. So it's kind of 50-50, which gives us a certain level of insulation as you head into, economic weirdness.
Okay. And so when you say virtual manufacturer, tell us more of what you mean by virtual manufacturer.
Sure. So if you think about an end user, and I guess the way to think about it is like this. We have a lot of options when it comes to providing the perfect part for our customers. And we act as if we are the manufacturer, meaning we partner directly with the customer. We will work directly with the customer on the application from which they're looking to purchase products to use on. We'll then work with that customer on all the various regulations and things that they have to be aware of. We'll work with them on the design of the product. We'll work with them on the sourcing of the product, all of that type of stuff. But ultimately, we can source that product from all over the world. Whether or not we need to source it domestically in the US, we can. We have a good, solid, redundant supply chain here locally or in the United States. But we also have a good presence in Asia. We have a good presence in Europe. So we have multiple options. So when we're looking at that application for the customer, not only can we help them design the perfect product that they need for their application, we can also give them options as to who the ultimate manufacturer is that they're working with, and they would just communicate directly through us to source those products.
Okay. And so do you have stock products, or is pretty much everything so you have stock products and then you have things that are customer owned products effectively?
That's right. Yeah, we have stock products. So some of the products that we know have volume, we will bring into our network and we will stock those. And in some cases, we pre-position that product close to our customers. So the fast moving items that we know are going to move, we will bring into our network. But we've got a lot of relationships with customers where there's a one-to-one relationship where we have one part that they're using or several parts that they're using, and those several parts are directly tied back to a manufacturer. And in some cases, we'll stock those for the customers as well.
Fascinating. We were talking in preparation for the show about this concept of what's known as a digitally native vertical brand. Just kind of rolls right off the tongue there, DNVB. And some of you may be aware of Warby Parker as a place where you get glasses. They did kind of to glasses what Netflix did to the DVD world, where you can go get a pair of glasses. You can order several pairs of glasses to be shipped to you to test out, try on at your home. You can say, this is the one I want. You send them a prescription. They make your glasses. They send them to you. So this concept of a digitally native vertical brand is that you're essentially manufacturer, distributor, and retailer, which is what Warby Parker's done. They've revolutionized things. Revolutionized things. Wow, that's too many syllables for me to say. And you've kind of smushed all those into one. Looks like Marco has done a little bit of that. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I think that's a good example. It's not an example that I've used in the past, but it's definitely a good example of what we've done at Marco. As I think about us and I think about our model, and having been doing this for quite some time, and I guess I'll go back to the distributor topic that we were talking about. If you think about a legacy distributor who's sitting in the middle and moving a box from point A to point B, right? 15, 20 years ago, you could do that and you could compete, right? And I think that Amazon and others have blown that away, and they're really, really good. And if I need a box or I need a product, I can buy it from them. They're going to ship it to me. I know it's going to show up. I can return it whenever I want. To me, that's a threat across all of industrial distribution, one that you and I have been looking at our whole careers. What Marco is essentially, and what we will be as we continue to build out, we're like the Amazon of technical rubber products, except we have technical expertise. So at the end of the day, customers can come to us, whether it's through our website, whether it's direct via email, whether through one of our field engineers, they can come to us. We have a broad selection of product and capabilities. We can kind of make the burger their way. But at the end of the day, we're technical. So we can also have a conversation directly with their engineer about what's the right solution for that specific application that the customer is working on. So a little bit different than Warby Parker because it's not retail, but hopefully that makes sense. But that's really ultimately one of the things we're after here is we think we can be that one-stop shop for technical rubber products.
Beautiful. And I love your example about Amazon in contrast to Marco Rubber, because our listeners, by the way, listeners, always open to questions and comments. There is a Q&A button there at the bottom panel of the screen. Failing that, you can toss something in the chat and we'll make a game time decision about whether to answer it then or answer it later. But one of the things that we discussed in this show is what we call the distributor relative value model, which is kind of a fancy word for looking at both logistic complexity and then what we call transaction or product complexity. So if you look at where an Amazon or a Grainger for that matter fit, they're low logistic complexity, right? Often common carrier, now Amazon, which is effectively Amazon trucks, which is effectively common carrier, right?
Yeah.
And they're low on the logistics scale and they're low on the complexity scale. So the product or transaction complexity, they don't do any product transformation. They don't do value-added services. And you guys are definitely at the extreme end of complexity of product transaction complexity and probably medium on the logistic complexity.
Yeah, I would say that's the case. I mean, highly on the product side. On the logistics side, the color I would add is we're definitely, it's not simple. And again, it gets back to the types of parts and products that we're selling. These parts have a shelf life, they have cure dates. There's specific requirements that customers will have. You know, I need one seal in a clear bag with a green dot right where the product's vulcanized, because that's how they use the product once it shows up to them. So our operations of our organization is highly technical and value add from that perspective. And again, if you think about, so we'll sell a $400 seal and we'll sell a 36-cent seal, right? But if I'm spending $400 on a seal, I'm going to expect a certain level of service as a result of that purchase. And that's things like guaranteeing that thing's going to show up when it's supposed to, guaranteeing it's in the right package that it's supposed to, and then guaranteeing through working with the end user that it's going to work once they get it. So all of those things are really important components of the operations side of what you just laid out. So I would say it's quite a bit different than what the Grangers and the Amazons are doing as it relates to moving boxes around.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, those companies, the Grangers and the Amazons, are operational excellent on a scale that few can comprehend, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'll give you an example on the logistic one. Time frame that's interesting. I was talking to a guy at one of the big hospital chains, and he was responsible for kidney transplants. Those have a really extreme freshness required, and they actually travel in like 6-packs. So you think about a 6-pack of beer, instead it's a 6-pack of kidneys.
Wow.
I mean, but those are like same day freshness kind of thing. They need to get from one place to the next on the same day.
Yeah, you want to make sure the seals on that are working and working properly, right?
Exactly.
There's no question about it. And you know, Jonathan, maybe it would make sense for me for the listeners to take just a second to kind of explain the types of products that we sell at Marco, because I don't think I really got into that in my intro. And so if you think about technical rubber products or products that are relatively low cost, but they have a high cost of failure. And what I mean by that is, well, I'll give you an example. And I know you and I are of the age bracket will remember this. Hopefully some of the listeners do too, but the Space Shuttle Challenger back in 1986, I think I was in 6th grade, big deal. It fell out of the sky. It exploded in the sky. And if you Google it and say, what was the cause of that failure, what you're going to find out is I believe it was a failure in the right solid rocket booster of an O-ring. And that's a good example. If you think about the cost of a solid rocket booster on the space shuttle, it's a big number. You think about the seal on that, it's probably not inexpensive, but it's relatively inexpensive as you think about the entire application. Now, to add complexity to it is if you ask anybody in the sealing products industry about that O-ring, they'll tell you that O-ring was built to spec. So there's a specification and that O-ring was built exactly how it should have been. The spec didn't contemplate the temperature that morning of launch, right? And that was what ultimately caused the failure of the O-ring. So if you think of that, you take that at the scale that we're dealing with every day, whether it's a pump or, you know, anything, if you're moving a noxious fluid or you're moving anything through a pump, that seal's really important. It may be one of the lower cost parts in the pump, but it's really important. And if it fails, the pump doesn't work. So that's an example. So what we do at Marco is we try to make the selection, the sourcing, the design of those seals and those components as easy as we can for our customers, so that they know they can come to us and get a quality product on time for the application and eliminate any things like downtime or any kind of risk or concern about sourcing, again, a relatively low cost part with a high cost of failure. That hopefully that kind of sums it up, but it gives everybody a broad idea, I think, of what we do.
I love that. So in this space shuttle example, they built the thing right, but they built the wrong thing. Because
they built the thing right. The environment that morning was the issue. So now when you see launches and stuff all the time, you'll hear SpaceX as an example, I think canceled their launch multiple times. I don't know what the reason was, but it's often because of weather on the launch pad. So there's things like that everyone has to take into account. That's also relevant to the other applications where we sell our products.
So part of your value add then is not just building the thing right, but building the right thing. Helping them understand what they need.
Yeah.
Getting them to agree to a spec, and then
partnering with them all the way along the process. And then building their confidence. So the next time that process is quicker, easier, and they're just coming back to us to solve it for them.
Wow, amazing. Is there a reason why you don't go through distribution?
Well, we do go through distribution. We don't go exclusively through distribution. So we have partners that we work with that are other distributors. There's no real strong reason why. We just like to be able to control the quality side of things, and it's just very important when you're dealing with companies like the NASA's of the world and these larger companies to have that level of control. So we don't really turn away any customers. I have a saying at Marco that all customers should be treated special, just not necessarily the same. And that's something that we've implemented over the last couple of years, is just thinking about customers based on their needs, as opposed to treating them all the same, because we give everybody white glove treatment, but at the end of the day, we're going to make sure that customer that has larger opportunity for Marco, has a more technical application, is getting to the right resource to make sure they have the best experience.
I love that. When I hear an owner of a distribution owner say, "Yeah, we treat all customers the same," I know they're leaking profit. Right? Yeah, I mean, if you're treating that one person contractor the same as you are the one that's got 50 people that's doing, $2 million bids,
yeah,
you're leaking profit.
Yeah, you still got to treat them special though, and I think that's the thing. Like, you can't ignore them. It's just there's a different, lower touch model to continue to provide them what they're looking for. That's kind of how we think about it at Marco, anyway.
I love it. You scale the touch.
Yeah. Well, it gets back to our technology. So our former owner, we got into technology. We were selling O-rings online before Google was a thing. Back in the mid 90s, we spun up a website and started to procure O-rings and things online. And that turned into us building out what is really it's the Parker handbook digitized right on our website, and ultimately just data sheets and all types of information. So we get a lot of traffic that comes into our website. That throws off about 1,000 to 1,500 warm leads a month.
Wow.
And in the old days, and a lot of companies treat those lead comes in and you just kind of get right after it. What we've designed at Marco, I use an example of like the supermarket change sorter. Right here in my office, I have one of those water things filled with quarters, and once a year we take it to the supermarket and dump it in, and it separates the quarters from the nickels from the dimes. So we're using a product called Zoom Info, which you're probably familiar with, that plugs into our technology. So when those leads come in, we send them through that, which is our change sorter, and we'll go and we'll say, okay, this is a quarter. So the quarter is the more technical opportunities, the larger long-term opportunities. The quarter is going to go to a more senior technical sales consultant, and possibly a business development person, because that's going to be a different treatment. Where the dimes and the nickels and the quarters are still important. I'm sorry, the dimes, nickels, and pennies are still important, but we're going to direct the pennies towards the web channel or one of our newer inside sales reps. And maybe the nickels go to some people that have experience in that specific end market that can then refer that opportunity to somebody else. So building that system for all the listeners on the phone is critical for our current and future growth, is having that change sorter built in such a way that allows us to continue to do what I said where I started, which is treat them all special, but just not necessarily the same.
I love it. It's first of all, I love analytically driven businesses, and I know that's something that you're proud of. Can you talk about how you think about analytics? You've given one example, but can you talk a little bit about how you think about analytics in your business?
Yeah. So in our business, it's a table stake, right? It's we, from the very early days, when I joined Marco, well, the saying, you can't manage what you can't measure. So being able to we implemented our NetSuite ERP back in October of 2020. And that was really the foundation for our data that we built. And we want to be able to track really every piece of data that comes in and out of Marco. We want to be able to track it so that we can pull on it at some point in time. And then we've since implemented a data warehouse through Power BI that allows us to get in and mine that information. And then from there, we've set up by department specific reporting so canned reporting that our managers can go in that have the key KPIs for those departments. So they can go in, they can run canned reports so they can see how their business is performing, in some cases real time, which is pretty powerful, but often. So every department has their key KPIs that they manage and that they track. And then we've done a training. So we've trained everybody on how to use the system. So they can also go in and write ad hoc reports and things like that. So we watch the analytics really closely. And my philosophy on analytics is, I always say that we want to use the data, but we want to triangulate the data with reality. So ultimately, data is our foundation. As we look at issues, we look at opportunities, we look at whether it's a growth opportunity, a missed opportunity, any of that type of stuff. That's our foundation. But then at Marco, we take the time to talk directly to the customer, talk directly to the sales rep, so that we're able to kind of pull in addition to just the data, what else is going on as it relates to this decision we're about to make using data. And that's kind of how we operate. So to summarize all that, key KPIs by department, a system from which we can measure that, that's all plugged in, and employees that are trained and energetic to use it has been critical for us. And it allows us to start, and we're not great at this yet, we're getting better, but start answering the questions before we even get them. So the data starts to tell us what's happening before we even have the question.
That's amazing. Now, you had mentioned also that you're applying analytics on the employee side and as it pertains to your culture. Can we shift into that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I tell some people a story. Marco is technology enabled, and the story I'll give is my first day. I walked into the Marco headquarters and I looked at our IT guy and I said, "Where's my telephone?" And he said, "Oh, we're all voice over IP." And he gives me this, and I have a headset, right? So there's no physical telephone. So that was my kind of, okay, these guys are serious about being fully technology enabled. So really our entire organization uses very little paper. We're sharing data electronically, all that type of stuff. So it's kind of wired into our DNA. As I think about culture in general, so we have a digitally native culture, but we also focus heavily on culture. And more so than I think a lot of organizations do. And I think it's super important, Jonathan, again, is we're this virtual manufacturer who's in the middle, right, between important constituents, that a lot of our success comes down to the human beings that we have that are on the bus with us. So at Marco, we do a lot of things to keep people engaged. We do an annual engagement survey each year now for the last 3 years, where we'll go out, we'll speak to all constituents, whether it's a company we just acquired, new associates, everyone, and we get kind of a gauge on how the business is performing. We report that information back. So once we get the information, we'll sanitize it, we'll clean it up, we'll look at it, and we'll report that back to all of our employees. Here's what you told us. We were listening. Here's the actions we're going to take. And we try to make those actions obvious and demonstrable. And then we have rituals in the business. And I like to use the term rituals because they're things that we do regularly. And what happens is people become used to them. They look forward to them, right? So for example, we give out a Golden O-Ring Award once a quarter. And the Golden O-Ring Award, the team built it themselves. There's like a little trophy case and a bunch of O-rings that are painted gold. And once a quarter, we have a semi-democratic vote. People nominate folks, and we select the Golden O-Ring winner. And then we have a celebration, and we wheel a card out and have a gong, and that person gets to ring the gong. We do ceiling progress calls on a monthly basis just to keep people engaged from a culture standpoint. So all that stuff's important when I look at my company, and I think a lot of folks listening would feel the same way. Our goal is that people get a speeding ticket on the way to work, not on the way home. So being able to invest in the facility, build out break rooms, share our values on the walls, make sure the colors match the website, all that kind of stuff are things that we've taken very serious at Marco over the last couple of years and will continue to do for the future.
That's amazing. I'm curious what you found in the employee engagement stuff so far. First of all, do you have it at a point where you can say, Houston, you got a problem?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Talk to us about what you're able to do there with your
Yeah.
employee engagement.
So we use a tool called Culture Amp, which is an online tool that helps us kind of measure this survey and things that we put out. But ultimately, what we're able to do is we can slice and dice the data a million different ways. So we can look at it, from individual department to individual topics to how were the questions responded to. We make it anonymous. So we make it very clear to everybody that it is anonymous, and we don't know who the actual human being is, but we can see it by department. So what that allows us to do is pick up on subtle things in some cases and pretty obvious things in other cases. We're a growing company. We've brought in a lot of employees. This most recent engagement survey, we found that people are looking for us to take action faster. And, from our perspective, as leadership, we're like, wow, we're moving really fast. But it gives us pause to take a step back and say, okay, we have to think about this based on how the employee is thinking. So what do they mean by action? In a lot of cases, that could be, hey, listen, we're going to move your queue in 2 weeks and it takes 6 weeks. So we dial into those types of things. And then what we do is we put action plans together to make those areas that are important to people more obvious that we're addressing. So that's one example. And then we also measure and benchmark ourselves against really two benchmarks. We benchmark ourselves against other industrial distribution companies, and we benchmark ourselves against a startup. And we try to fly right between those two goalposts. And that's really where we've been for the last couple of years is we look at ourselves as kind of that, again, we're not your mother's industrial distribution company. We're not truly a startup, but we kind of act like both. So we shoot for the middle of the fairway there between those two constituents.
That makes sense. We had another guest on the show, Randy Eddy from US Electrical. And what Randy had seen was that their employee engagement increase correlated perfectly with their profitability increase. I mean, you can see the lines, and we actually showed it. Yeah. So
interesting. I wonder if does he have a comp model that pays people based on profitability?
I'm sure he does. He is a very analytically driven guy. I would say absolutely brilliant, like you.
Thank you.
But he was able to see both of these things. And if you go back to work done by Frederick Reichheld at Bain, he showed this really virtuous relationship between employee engagement, retention, customer engagement, retention, and then both of those feeding growth and profitability. So,
well, we definitely have the analytics. We haven't looked at it that way, but it's worth taking a peek at for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, we've got a question from somebody who looks like they've been in touch with you before the show. Hey, Marty, told you I wouldn't miss the show. Great to see you. Reviewed your site and see that you can buy a variety of O-rings online. Do you sell any other products online? That's question number one. It's a multi-part question. Do you sell other products online? If so, what?
Yeah. So we primarily, yes, more than O-rings. So we focus more in on seals. So if you go deeper in there, you'll find gaskets and things like that. So it's broader than just O-rings. We don't get into other types of products. So things such as safety products or any completely adjacent categories, we don't. As we buy companies, so the core Marco flywheel historically was O-rings, gaskets, those types of things. As we've acquired businesses, and we've made 4 acquisitions, in the last 2 years, the product basket's expanding. So with our acquisition down in Florida, it got us more into molded rubber components and things like that, and the ability to provide products at production. Those types of parts are going to be displayed on our website more in an informational standpoint than an actual place of purchase there, because it's a different sales process completely. And then what you'll see too, if you look a little bit closer at the website, is there's more information there now on silicone sponge, closed cell silicone extrusions, those types of parts. And that's a byproduct of our acquisition of a company called Hypotech, the middle of last year. So as we continue to expand, you'll see that product basket online continue to expand along with it. You might not always see that specific part available to transact digitally. If it's more of a custom technical part, you'll see it more informationally than to transact.
Okay, so if I've spec'd a part, custom part, I can't order that online, even if
you could, that specific customer could, yeah, okay. But we're not going to market that to a broader, to the masses.
Got it. Next question, can customers configure the products online?
So today there's tools that allow them to configure online as far as build the size of the order and that type of stuff. If there's detailed configuration that needs to take place, we like to refer that customer to one of our inside sales technical consultants that will then partner with them and work with them on it. But for the most part, you can self-serve. If you're an engineer and you know what you're looking for, you can go on our website, source exactly what you're looking for, and place the order directly with us, or contact us and we'll get back with you with a more technical expertise.
Beautiful. Love it.
Our website today is really, if you look at the marcorubber.com website today, it's really designed for engineers and serious buyers. It's not really set up for a novice or somebody who's going in to just look for an O-ring.
Do you look at design wins as a thing in your business? Some people that are in the spec business look at getting a design win, meaning we built a prototype or we spec'd a prototype, we won, and now we got the business. Is that part of your business or not?
Yeah, we look at that. We look at it quite a bit, and we watch it specifically with our larger key account type customers. It's not a core metric that we're measuring today based on how our model runs today. As we build out our sales engineer organization, that will be a more important metric for us.
Let's talk a little bit about the acquisitions you've done. So you've got the good fortune of having a terrific private equity company behind you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. As we know, PE funds like to fund acquisitions, especially that are creative. Talk to us about what you've done there and how that's been a part of fueling your growth.
Yeah, happy to. Well, on the sponsor piece, we are very fortunate to have an absolute world-class partner supporting our efforts here. So as I look at Marco, and when I was telling the story about Marco earlier, when I joined the organization, we were a much smaller business, but very much focused on the core tenets that any big business would need to have, dialed into what the customer's needs are, technology enabled, website, the ability to act digitally native, all those types of things, and then deep technical expertise with salespeople that have been with us for 18 years or so. So we had this core flywheel and thousands of customers that were coming at us. So when we started looking at acquisitions, we're really thinking about what are acquisitions that will expand our TAM, so that are going to get us into end markets that we're not in today, that will expand our product basket, getting us new products that we can introduce to the existing customers at Marco. And then last but not least, talent. And do they have any technical expertise or talent that they bring to the table? So in doing that, we made the acquisition of a business down in Tampa called Premier Precision Components. And that was a transformational add-on for us. We did this back at the end of 2021. And that acquisition got us much deeper supply chain relationships in Asia. It allowed Marco to get more into the compound molded rubber parts, the more parts that are being made for production, those types of things. And it also got us into big customer business. So multi-million-dollar customers that are really using and leveraging Marco to provide them critical parts for production. So that acquisition was transformative for us. And then we went about a year, really stayed internally focused throughout 2021, building out the business. And then in 2022, we got back on the acquisition trail. And we made 2 acquisitions in 2022. We bought a little gasket manufacturing business that was in Connecticut that added depth to our gasket line. So getting back to either, how's it helping out the broader business? This gave us deeper and more technical capabilities around gaskets. And then in about May or June of 2022, we acquired a technical silicone foam rubber distributor, if you will, a company called Hypotech. That expanded our product basket. getting us into closed cell silicone sponge extrusions and things like that. And then here just recently, this year, we closed on our fourth acquisition that really bolsters our relationships overseas, again, on the supply chain side, and gets us into some really cool niche markets that we haven't been in before. And these, to me, this gets really exciting. Jonathan, when you think about a company like ours that's got this broad product basket of technical type rubber products that are servicing, we primarily service the industrial manufacturing end market, but there's a lot of niches that need the same stuff. So for example, spinning up a website for the brewery end market, if you will, that provides brewmasters and things like that with the parts that they need to continue to expand their business and give them a one-stop shop for seals and gaskets. So that's what we got out of this most recent acquisition with that we did out in Nevada not too long ago. So you pull all that together, and what you've got is you've got that core Marco flywheel, which is the platform that's technology enabled with all the stuff we've talked about. And then you're adding these acquisitions that are bringing in the talent, the new products, the additional end markets that we haven't served before. It's been very successful for us so far. And we're excited about the future here. The other thing that we do, and we try to move quickly here, is once we do a deal, we partner with the owners of the company that we bought, but we move quickly to integrate them onto the NetSuite platform. And in doing that, once they're integrated, the lights come on. And it's at that point in time, all the things that we've built at Marco over the last 3 years, that new acquisition is able to get the benefit of all of that as well. So we move relatively quick from an integration standpoint.
Okay, so your platform, if you will, as a PE company, you're able to get them integrated into the platform in the business sense as well as the technical sense.
Yeah, both. Yeah,
quickly, so that they get that benefit.
Yeah. And then we make the decision as we're doing that as to whether or not they retain the brand that we purchased, or if they're a better business by being part of Marco, we may choose to just completely integrate them. But that's really the model that we're using today.
Interesting. You're no rookie to the acquisition world, having been on both the buy and the sell side. Right. My observation today about a lot of acquisitions is that integration is technical integration is really key, and here's why. It's no longer just the ERP.
Yeah.
Right. It's the ERP, it's the CRM, it's the analytics, it's the warehouse management, it's the e-commerce system. All of these things are part of the integration. And I've watched some private equity funds that just make a habit of throwing a bunch of companies together, doing zero integration and tossing them up to the next buyer.
Yeah, that's not how we roll, and it's just not from my perspective, that's not the right way to do it. What we're building here is for the long term, and listen, we move faster or slower depending on the opportunity. When we acquired that business at the end of 2021, we took a whole year, a year and a half, to make sure that we really truly understood that company before we integrated them. The next three, one we did in 90 days because everybody agreed we could. The other one took 6 months. So they'll vary. Mm-hmm. But I think I believe firmly, because I've worked in companies that didn't operate this way, to your point, and that's when I say the lights come on. It's once you get through this integration is really when you're able to take advantage of what you have in the platform, which is much more than how I place POs and things like that.
Right. Well, and also because you are diversifying, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful about integration, right?
You do.
You've been in other businesses where you were acquiring businesses that look slightly more similar to the platform.
Right.
And there are certainly private equity roll-up deals where the add-ons look very similar to the platform business.
Right. Right. And listen, all this is easy to say and easy for me to say. The way it works for us, it's the team that we've built. And ultimately I've surrounded myself with really smart, driven, hardworking people that we're all on the same page and we're all fighting for the same thing. It kind of goes without saying, but ultimately a lot of thanks out to that team, because when I sit here and say, hey, we integrate quickly, that's because we've built a team that can move at that pace, right? And it's so important to have those folks around you as you try to do what we're doing.
Fantastic. Marty, this has been a delightful and informative discussion. We'd love to have you back on the show at some point in the future to hear about since you and I are going to go solve world hunger, we'll have to tell that story at some point.
Well, I've really appreciated it. And whenever I have an opportunity to talk about my company or myself, I'm all in.
I hear you. It's kind of like going to a therapist.
That's right. That's right.
I've got a couple things I want to share about upcoming events with Distribution Strategy Group. So on May 9th, is that a week from today? No, that's 6 days from today. That's Tuesday. We've got a terrific technology leader panel on solutions that enable great digital strategies, sponsored by X-Engage, Nautical, Bloomreach, and Data Extreme. And then on May 17th, which is 2 weeks from today, we have a supply chain topic, 2023 supply chain outlook, how to prepare for what lies ahead with Ravi Godamurthy, who's spoken on supply chain for us before. Absolutely brilliant guy. Definitely won't want to miss that. That will be sponsored by Epicor. Thank you again, Marty, and thank you for the audience, and wishing you all a great day and rest of the week.
Thanks, Jonathan.